tarif kurang agresif oleh pentadbiran Presiden Donald Trump. Ini susulan kenyataan Presiden itu mengenai potensi perjanjian perdagangan baru Amerika Syarikat China dengan pasaran menjangkakan pendekatan lebih bersasar dan berperingkat terhadap tarif import tinggi. Trump juga dilaporkan menjangkakan Presiden China Xi Jinping mengunjungi Amerika walaupun beliau tidak memberikan sebarang maklumat mengenai garis masa lawatan itu. Pada Selasa, Rusia dan Amerika bersetuju memulakan usaha ke arah perjanjian damai dengan kedua-dua pihak bersetuju membentuk pasukan peringkat tertinggi untuk menyokong rundingan damai berkenaan. Ketua Ahli Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid melihat perkembangan itu sebagai positif selain usaha Trump menamatkan peperangan di Ukraine. Katanya jika momentum positif ini berterusan, ringgit dijangka bergerak mengukuh. Namun, beberapa pegawai Rizab Persekutuan Amerika Syarikat dijadual berucap di forum awam dan pandangan mereka mengenai hala tuju kadar faedah dan dasar monetari Amerika akan mempengaruhi pasaran kewangan termasuk pertukaran asing. Minggu lalu, ringgit kebanyakannya mengukuh dan mengakhiri urus niaga mingguannya dengan menghampiri paras tertinggi dalam tempoh 3 minggu. Ringgit naik 0.4% berbanding dolar Amerika sejak Jumaat lepas, walaupun Fed dijangka mengekalkan kadar faedah yang stabil dalam masa terdekat. Keadaan itu disebabkan oleh pengukuhan prestasi ekonomi Amerika dan inflasi melebihi sasaran 2.0% seperti mana dinyatakan dalam minit-minit mesyuarat jawatan kuasa pasaran terbuka Persekutuan FOMC negara maju itu pada Januari lepas. Dalam pada itu, ringgit mengukuh untuk mengakhiri urus niaga minggu lalu pada paras 4.4165 daripada 4.4310 pada minggu sebelumnya. Selain itu, ringgit juga diniagakan kebanyakannya mengukuh berbanding mata wang ASEAN. Baik, seterusnya FBM KLCI mencatat pulangan 13.02% pada 2024 tetapi setakat 21 Februari 2025, indeks ini turun sebanyak negatif 3.12%. Dan kita juga melihat aliran keluar pelaburan asing yang berterusan dengan jumlah menjejah 10.9 bilion ringgit sejak Oktober 2024. Dan walaupun ringgit semakin kukuh kepada 4.41 per dolar Amerika dan ekonomi Malaysia berkembang sebanyak 5.1% pada 2024 dengan inflasi kekal rendah, pasaran saham masih menunjukkan kelemahan. Jadi kita nak tahu apakah faktor utama di sebalik prestasi pasaran, sektor yang menunjukkan ketahanan serta apakah peluang pemulihan yang boleh dijangka oleh pelabur. Jadi untuk mengulas lanjut kita bersama dengan Muhammad Siddiq Jantan, Ketua Pendidikan Pelaburan UOB KN Wealth Advisors. Assalamualaikum. Mungkin pertama sekali kita saksikan hampir 2 bulan kita memasuki tahun 2025 dengan prestasi ekonomi 2024 yang baru diumumkan menunjukkan pertumbuhan kukuh sebanyak 5.1%. Jadi pada pendapat Siddiq, bagaimana gambaran keseluruhan pasaran saham Malaysia setakat Februari ini dan apakah faktor utama yang mempengaruhi prestasi pasaran? Silakan.
Okey, baik Nabilah, kalau kita lihat berdasarkan dalam 24 Februari hari ini, iaitu dalam 2 bulan kita memasuki tahun 2025, prestasi ekonomi Malaysia memang menunjukkan pertumbuhan yang kukuh. Even yang Nabilah katakan tadi bahawa Malaysia menunjukkan pertumbuhan ekonomi sebanyak 5.1%. Namun pasaran saham tidak menunjukkan momentum yang sama dengan FBMKLCI yang tadi yang dinyatakan iaitu mencatatkan kejatuhan 3.12% dan bila kita tengok sektor yang terkesan utama termasuklah sektor teknologi iaitu yang menunjukkan penurunan sebanyak 13.54%, penjagaan kesihatan iaitu 15%, manakala sektor kewangan menunjukkan sedikit pengukuhan iaitu meningkat sebanyak 0.77% dan REITs masih menunjukkan rebound iaitu pemulihan iaitu meningkat sebanyak 0.17%. So apa yang kita boleh lihat daripada sektor-sektor ini yang memberi sedikit gambaran terhadap FBMKLCI iaitu faktor yang mempengaruhi pasaran ianya dikuasai oleh faktor luaran iaitu faktor ketidaktentuan global seperti ada faedah yang kekal tinggi dan selain daripada ketegangan perdagangan, walaupun kita nampak intonasi ataupun tone dasar daripada Trump terhadap China sedikit rendah, iaitu perlahan, artinya memberi kelebihan kepada China, tetapi ianya masih tidak menentu. Ini kerana tiada apa-apa sokongan perjanjian yang dilakukan oleh antara dua-dua pihak. Selain itu, aliran keluar berterusan pelabur asing juga menunjukkan peningkatan yang drastik, khususnya pada bulan Januari. So bila kita lihat, kalau kita tengok sejak 2024 Oktober, aliran keluar meningkat sebanyak 10.9 bilion ringgit daripada Malaysia. Ini menekankan prestasi keseluruhan pasaran, sebab kita tahu antara momentum ataupun penggerak utama pasaran Malaysia adalah pelabur asing. So kita lihat pengeluaran aliran keluar pelabur asing dari bursa Malaysia memberi tekanan keseluruhan di pasaran bursa Malaysia. Selain itu, kalau kita tengok keuntungan korporat, untuk saya ulas mengenai keuntungan korporat untuk suku keempat, ianya menunjuk sedikit peningkatan, tapi dalam keadaan yang masih sederhana. Ini menyebabkan pelabur lebih berhati-hati. So ini menunjukkan bahawa kelemahan pasaran, kalau saya boleh rangkumkan, ianya bukan berpunca daripada ekonomi domestik, tetapi lebih kepada faktor luaran dan sentimen pelabur global yang masih berhati-hati.
Dikatakan apa yang berlaku pada ketika inilah disebabkan faktor luaran dan juga yang menyebabkan pelabur menjadi berhati-hati. Jadi kita nak faham lebih lanjut, apakah faktor utama yang menyebabkan pasaran saham Malaysia terus menunjukkan prestasi yang lemah pada tahun 2025 ini walaupun ekonomi negara mencatatkan pertumbuhan yang sihat dan juga inflasi yang kekal rendah, Sidik?
Okey, kalau saya boleh katakan yang pertama adalah sektor sentimen global yang masih lemah akibat kadar faedah yang tinggi, yang menyebabkan pelabur lebih cenderung kepada pasar maju seperti Amerika Syarikat dan juga Eropah. Sebab kalau kita lihat, kalau berlaku ketidaktentuan, kebanyakan pelabur akan beralih kepada pasaran yang lebih selamat. Saya tidak menyatakan bahawa Malaysia bukan pasaran yang selamat, tetapi jika kita comparekan, kalau kita bandingkan antara Malaysia dengan negara-negara maju, risiko pelaburan lebih rendah berbanding apabila pelabur melabur di negara maju berbanding dengan negara membangun. So itu yang pertama yang kita boleh yang boleh saya katakan, iaitu sentimen global yang masih lemah akibat keadaan ketidaktentuan pasaran. Dan kedua adalah kadar faedah Amerika Syarikat yang tinggi, iaitu kadar faedah di Amerika Syarikat buat masa ini 4.75 masih berada dalam peringkat yang tinggi. Dan kita juga lihat bahawa Federal Reserve tidak akan menurunkan kadar faedah secara drastik untuk tahun 2025 ini. So selain itu, ketegangan geopolitik juga akan menambahkan ketidaktentuan dalam pasaran global Malaysia. So selain itu, kalau kita tengok aliran keluar yang kita tengok buat setakat ini, pegangan asing dalam ekuiti Malaysia dia turun sebanyak 19.4% pada Januari 2025, dan ini adalah paras terendah sejak tahun 2007. So pelabur asing lebih tertarik kepada pasaran India, Indonesia dan juga even China yang menawarkan pertumbuhan yang lebih tinggi serta kecairan yang pasaran yang lebih baik. So seperti yang saya katakan tadi, kalau keadaan ketidaktentuan, mereka akan pergi kepada negara maju, dan sekiranya paras kadar faedah berada pada paras yang tinggi, pelabur akan mencari di mana mereka boleh melabur dengan mempunyai kecairan yang lebih besar, iaitu bila dia pelabur menjual, mereka dapat liquidate dia mereka punya modal dengan lebih pantas. Artinya ada pihak yang boleh membeli pasaran mereka, pegangan saham mereka. So yang ketiga yang boleh katakan prestasi saham tidak sekadar dia turut menyumbang kepada kelemahan pasaran, iaitu walaupun sektor yang saya katakan tadi, sektor kewangan menunjukkan positif, REIT juga menunjukkan peningkatan sedikit meningkat. tetapi kalau kita lihat kepada sektor-sektor lain seperti sektor teknologi dan penjagaan kesihatan mengalami tekanan jualan yang tinggi. So ketidaksetaraan ini memberi kelemahan kepada pasaran. So kesimpulannya ini menyebabkan performance ataupun prestasi FBM KLCI dilihat sedikit rendah, tetapi negatif 3.2% ianya tidak serendah pada hujung bulan 1 hari itu, iaitu FBM KLCI pernah mengalami pada tahun ini sebanyak penurunan 5% dalam tempoh yang agak pendek. So saya lihat faktor ini adalah merupakan faktor sementara, tetapi kita tidak boleh melihat ianya salah satu faktor yang menjadi ataupun penyebab berlakunya kelemahan pasaran saham Malaysia untuk masa yang agak panjang, iaitu selama 9 bulan ataupun 1 tahun. So pada saya ianya adalah dalam jangka masa sementara sahaja.
Okey Siddiq, kita ada contradiction di sini di mana kita lihat ketidaktentuan pasaran pada ketika ini tidak sama ataupun tidak seimbang dengan di mana ringgit menunjukkan pengukuhan pula yang ketara, namun aliran keluar pelabur asing masih berterusan. Jadi kalau boleh Siddiq kongsikan mengapa pelabur asing masih menjual saham Malaysia dan apakah faktor yang menyebabkan mereka mengambil langkah ini dalam jangka masa lebih kurang 2 minit?
Okey, kalau kita lihat ringgit memang semakin kukuh. Kalau apa yang Nabilah katakan, RM4.41 untuk $1 pada akhir tahun 2024, ia menunjukkan satu pengukuhan sebab kita pernah melepasi pada paras RM4.80 pada tahun 2024. So salah satu sebab mengapa what you call that, the pelabur asing masih berterusan menjual perdagangan mereka. Yang pertama adalah mereka melihat bahawa kadar faedah di Amerika Syarikat sangat menarik berbanding dengan kadar faedah di negara di Asia. So ini menyebabkan pulangan bond Amerika Syarikat yang lebih tinggi, menyebabkan pelabur asing memilih untuk mengekalkan dana mereka di pasaran Amerika Syarikat, dan juga untuk pasaran equity daripada mengambil risiko melabur di pasaran asing di negara membangun, mereka lebih refer kepada pasaran bond yang agak sederhana risiko tetapi mempunyai pulangan yang agak tinggi disebabkan oleh kadar faedah di Amerika Syarikat. Dan ini menyebabkan ini merupakan faktor utama mengapa pelabur asing membawa modal mereka keluar daripada Malaysia dan memilih untuk melabur di negara maju seperti di Amerika Syarikat, dan seterusnya memilih dengan keadaan ketidaktentuan global lebih memilih kepada pasaran bond berbanding dengan equity.
Baik, terima kasih diucapkan kepada Muhammad Siddiq Jantan, Ketua Pendidikan Pelaburan UOB KL Wealth Advisors atas perkongsian itu tadi, dan segala perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam semua platform digital Astro AWANI dan juga astrowani.com, dan saya kira itu saja. Kita akan berhenti rehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.
Ramadan dengan pengisian penuh bermakna.
Kasih sayang Allah mentakdirkan sesuatu dengan kuasanya.
Syukuri nikmat kurniaan yang Maha Esa.
Kami dah ajar Mak mengaji.
Berdoa pula dalam solat kita makbul, insya-Allah.
Terokai keindahan dan keunikan pelbagai budaya untuk dijadikan sebagai inspirasi.
Ada pengorbanan banget. Yang penting berkat.
Alhamdulillah. Perkongsian tips masakan bersama selebriti terkenal.
Life is beautiful and you are beautiful too.
Drama yang penuh emosi untuk dijadikan iktibar.
Hani sudah, Hani kena minta maaf.
Baik buruk you sekarang, I terima seadanya. Cinta tu kan daripada hati.
Agama tu tiang hidup kita.
Ramadan ini indahnya lain macam bersama Astro.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kauschi. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in economic analysis and future affairs. Now, today on Future Affairs, we're discussing the ASEAN higher education market. Now, ASEAN's education market is experiencing significant growth driven by a youthful demographic and increasing international student mobility. As of 2022, the region's youth population, aged between 15 to 34, stands at approximately 213 million, marking the largest cohort in ASEAN's history. Now, this demographic trend is expected to peak at just over 220 million by 2038, underscoring the escalating demand for higher education services. In 2023, Malaysia received nearly 27,000 applications from Chinese students, a substantial increase from about 12,000 in 2019. This surge is reflecting Malaysia's growing appeal as a study destination, attributed to factors such as affordability, quality education, and a welcoming environment. Now, as ASEAN Chair in 2025, Malaysia is poised to leverage its leadership role to further enhance regional educational collaboration. Niaga Spotlight today focuses on higher education's crucial role in boosting Malaysia and ASEAN competitiveness by fostering innovation, developing skilled human capital, and enhancing research capabilities. This is all essential, of course, for continued development of a future workforce with advanced knowledge and critical thinking skills, driving economic growth, attracting investments, and ensuring long-term sustainability and prosperity in a rapidly evolving and globalized economy. All of that said, joining me now live in the studios for this very interesting discussion, we have with us Shahril Sabaruddin, who is Director for Digital Marketing with Education Malaysia Global Services, EMGS, as well as Associate Professor Dr. Arpah Abu Bakar, Director with the Centre for International Affairs and Cooperation, CIAC at University Utara Malaysia, UUM. A very good morning to the both of you. Welcome to the studios. How are you doing today?
You're fine, doing well.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So let's get the discussion started. Shahril, if I could begin with you and asking you a little bit more about key strategies which Malaysia has actually been developing in the background to position itself as a regional hub, not just in the locality of our immediate neighbors, right, such as Indonesia and perhaps even China, for international students within ASEAN. What's the landscape looking like?
Thank you, Tamina. So if I may, I'd like to answer that question in 5 different kind of prongs.
All right, fantastic. Sure, go for it.
Okay, first, Malaysia, we are adapting policy which are very nimble, that responds and are very adaptable to the current changes in, the global nuances, the global grand national, the global compendium of geopolitics, economy, and all those. So we are also adapting fast to it in terms of our visa processing times, in terms of our technological adaptation in visa processing, in terms of our warm and welcoming attributes of our visa regimes as well. So while some parts of the other countries all over the world are closing their door, we are actually welcoming a bit more. And there's a continuous discussion about moving away from top 4, which has always been United Kingdom, US, Australia, and all those, that now looks at Malaysia and to a larger extent Southeast Asia as a viable alternative to it. So that's one, policy. Policy nimbleness is key to
sure, and that's also actually reflecting global trends, whereby we're having actually those from the east looking east.
Definitely, yes. So looking east policy has gone on to steroids in that sense.
Basically.
Yes. And then secondly, in terms of our program design.
Right.
So there's a lot of universities that's done partnerships. We talk about transnational education. In Malaysia, apparently, the maturity and the model of transnational education has actually been kind of like accredited, have been acknowledged at least. I'd like to share a story that's been told to us by our CEO, Mr. Novi Tajuddin, when he was in Australia last time during APAI conference. He did say that while he was talking about Malaysia's transnational education ecosystem, even the Australians, part of the Big Four, actually were really impressed. They were captivated and mesmerized by Malaysia's maturity in terms of our transnational education model, just by virtue of what we are doing right now. So it means that essentially we are doing something right in that particular avenue. So all of this dual programming, twinning and all those, I think as what we are doing right now, the strategy works. You just need to make sure that we don't mess that one up, or we don't really, we have to just maintain momentum. Third is funding models. So of course,
exactly, because it also needs to be affordable enough, even though, of course, Malaysia does not necessarily have the strongest currency in the region, which makes it affordable enough.
True, but there's a study by Economic Times that says Malaysia, in average, the fee is around $6,000 across the board, compared to UK or United States. It could go up to 40,000. So you see how competitive that is. And then also our living costs, our index in terms of cost of living is very low compared to other countries, even within ASEAN. So coupling these two together doubles down the idea that Malaysia is not just affordable in terms of a destination for learning, but also we maintain top-notch quality standards. We have 6 universities now ranked top 200 in QS ranking. If we go all the way down to top 500, there's 8 universities in Malaysia. ASEAN region, there's 93 universities within that top 500. So that tells us that we do not compromise quality while affording affordability. It's not mutually exclusive in between affordability as well as excellence. So that's one. Fourth is hospitality.
I think nothing beats the Malaysian experience,
definitely.
right?
Malaysian
when it comes to diversity and also accessibility.
Top notch. Actually, if you scour the digital domain, you will see that some of the European people, they share their experience in Malaysia, saying that it changed their own worldview of the humanity experience when they come to Malaysia. Because by virtue of us just being us, we are very warm, accommodating and all those. For them, it's a big deal. So that is our element of soft power that we are projecting. EMJS is doing our part as well. We have a one of a kind. Nowhere else in the world has an international student arrival center at the first touch point of international students when they come to Malaysia, at the airport. KLIA1, KLIA2, we have a center dedicated to handhold the students from the moment they land in Malaysia all the way to the university that they're supposed to
familiarize them from the get-go. Well, I remember back in my day, of course, showing my age, 40, that, it used to be an international student center, but you had to get there at the university.
Yes,
right?
You're left alone once you arrive. We don't do that. We handhold you all the way. Even, we have 4 lanes, 4 or 5, I don't remember the number, there are 4 distinct lanes for express lanes for students when they arrive after they finish the document processing. They can just exit without having to go through all the queuing process, the typical queuing process of the immigration. So we have dedicated lanes in KLIA1. So these are the hospitality that we double down on top of our natural. But also when we look at numerical numbers in terms of what we are supposed to achieve or what we imagine happening, Malaysia also wants to assert leadership. Now we are the chairman of ASEAN. We would be talking later, maybe perhaps about the ASEAN exhibition forum.
That's right, exactly. So thanks so much for really setting the scene for us, Cecah. May I ask you, Dr. Arpa, so tell us a little bit more in detail about the ASEAN Universities Exhibition and Forum 2025. It's the first going to be happening and is scheduled for early next week. Everything that went into organizing this, as well as what are some of the highlights that people can look forward to for the higher education market?
All right, Jasmina. I studied Universities Education and Forum 2025, the short form AEF 2025.
Right.
It will be held on 24th and 25th February. It's just around the corner, and it will be held at Sunway Resort Hotel next week. Now, the AEF 2025, there are 2 main activities being done, which is the exhibitions and forum itself, and also the ASEAN Student Mobility Program. Now, the idea of having the AEF 2025 is to bring the ASEAN universities to showcase their programs, what they are going to offer to the ASEAN students. So when EMGS, Education Malaysia Global Services, come up with the idea of having AEF in Malaysia, University Utara Malaysia was thinking, instead of just having a supplier side at this country,
attitude and perspective,
why not we bring in the demand side as well?
Okay.
So that's where ASEAN Student Mobility Program comes together as one of the main activities under AEF 2025. So we started earlier. From 11, actually, we started the program with the students. University Utara Malaysia become the lead universities. But there are 12 other universities participating in this program. So it's a huge project at the national level in which we are bringing students from ASEAN to Malaysia. And at the same time, Education Malaysia Global Services brings the universities from ASEAN to Malaysia.
Exactly. So it's like an exchange. It's a two-way street, basically.
Yes, yes. So we are expecting 500 students from ASEAN coming in, and I think I can share with you a little bit of statistics.
Sure, please do.
So yeah, next week with the exhibitions, we have 94 exhibitors already participating in AEF 2025, and we have 11 universities as scholarship providers. And the 500 mobility students comes from 95 ASEAN universities. That's also huge. And 13 host universities. We are expecting that there will be 15 partnerships, memorandum of understanding to be signed during this event as well. And we are expecting the Honorable Minister of Higher Education will also attend during the opening ceremony. And during the closing ceremony, we are expecting the Honorable Deputy Minister of Higher Education to attend as well. Now, looking at this project, we are seeing the fact that it aligns with Minister of Higher Education agenda on internationalization. And at the same time, you're looking at, as Malaysia become the chair of ASEAN, this project also aligned with the ASEAN Master Plan on people-to-people connectivity. So,
and starting it early on in life where, you know, you're still in the formative stage, especially in higher education. Thanks very much, Dr. Arpa. I think it's very interesting as well because already our latest statistics are showing us that up to 60% of Malaysia's international students come from the ASEAN region itself. Is there anything you're able to perhaps share with us with regards to ASEAN-related scholarships and initiatives that have been of interest?
Okay, during the AEF 2025, there'll be an announcement of the scholarship providers. There'll be a platform. I think Shari has a better way to tell this information. But I think it's a good effort at the national level or the ASEAN level to bring in the scholarship providers so that students can have access to all these scholarship providers. So the platform itself will provide information on who are the providers and students can have easy access.
Absolutely. And there's already the existing ASEAN University Network or AUN. Perhaps that could even help facilitate student mobility further. Thanks, Dr. Arpa. Moving back into asking you, Shahril. So we were talking about ASEAN. So tell me a little more about what the perspective has been. Of course, we're already almost halfway through the first quarter of the year, but what does the rest of 2025 look like for Malaysia, especially capitalizing for the higher education market with all the opportunity that ASEAN brings and actually carrying the momentum, not just for this year, but till the next round when we get to chair ASEAN, another 10 years, right?
Yeah. I think one of the core elements that we need to talk about when answering specifically this question is actually partnership.
Yes.
So this AEF that is going to happen soon is a strategic leeway for us to actually manage partnership in terms of basically it's an avenue where we have a convergence of intellectual capital across ASEAN countries. Just now, Dr. Arpa has mentioned well that there's 95 universities participating in several avenues. There's 500 international students from 56 universities across ASEAN. There's a lot of memorandum of understanding. There's a confluence of intellectual capital and then an avenue for partnership to actually happen. But it's also important because just now we also talked a bit about scholarship, right? So we are going to announce the launching of an online portal that actually aggregates all of the scholarship providers across ASEAN countries in one single portal. So imagine this: when you're in Vietnam, you want to study somewhere, you have your own academic, social profile and all those. This portal would kind of automatically map you to whatever are the available scholarships across the ASEAN region. So it facilitates ASEAN students' mobility by that virtue. But ultimately, we can scale that one up because when there's mobility of students, because we break down the barrier of economic attainment through scholarships and this kind of partnerships, we can also then push for a standardization of accreditation. because universities in Malaysia are not necessarily recognized in Thailand.
Very true, or vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa.
Well. Yeah.
So there is something that's been worked on within the ASEAN Secretariat to recognize this, to harmonize this, an MQA for ASEAN, if we can actually term it a bit more. Yeah.
If I can ask you, expanding on that thought process, the fact that we have already been traditionally attracting a lot of international students from China, what could we perhaps replicate the process for recognition that we have already experience in doing with China to ensure that their students are actually coming here?
That's pretty much exactly what we intend to actually do, because we don't just look at numbers. We are actually focusing a lot on quality of students. So quality of students, and then when we talk about mobility, we also want to facilitate not just student mobility but also lecturer mobility. The entire
very interesting. The whole
ecosystem
itself,
the
right?
lecturers, the technology, the pedagogy, so that we can then minimize the gaps that exist within the universities, within the ASEAN countries. So when that happens, another level is this, that industrial partnerships with the academia that nexus between the industry and academia can actually then be streamlined much more effectively. So our degree could be recognized by Tesla in another country, for example, within the ASEAN region, when all of this has kind of like been standardized and when the mobility has actually been achieved. So that's why I think I also would like to kind of like emphasize that Malaysia has always been serious in making sure that all of this idealism is not just an idea on paper. It doesn't just look good as an idea.
Not just a blueprint, but it translates.
Yes, it translates. That's why 10 years ago, when Malaysia was also
ASEAN
the chair, ASEAN chair, we came up with the Kuala Lumpur Declaration of Higher Education, focusing a lot on TVET at that time. 10 years has passed. I think we're going to renew that commitment. We're going to put in a lot more, things that are related to disruptive technologies and also the facilitation of people-to-people movement in this particular perspective. I hope, this is my personal hope, that would be integrated into the new declaration that's perhaps going to be launched within this time when Malaysia is actually the chair.
Absolutely, and actually, setting the tone for the next 10 years. So, Dr. Arpa, before we move into a quick break, could you tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on what measures perhaps educational institutions can take to sustain the momentum for the ASMP beyond 2025?
Shahri has touched a little bit on harmonizations of the education system across ASEAN.
That's right.
I think there's a lot of efforts being done. You also mentioned about ASEAN University Network. So under ASEAN University Network, there are 17, I think now maybe it becomes already 21 network that combined or group ASEAN universities to work into some themes that we need to deep dive how we can harmonize those themes. And the two that I can highlight here is ASEAN University Network Quality Assurance and ASEAN Credit Transfer System. So there are two thematic networks that is very active looking at how we can harmonize the education system. Now, if universities in the ASEAN region can go for ASEAN University Network certification programs. Now, if you go under the certification programs, your curriculum are being certified. So it means that you can have it across ASEAN countries. Of course, there are universities, even University of Utara Malaysia, we go for international accreditation such as AACSB, but that's at a global level. But the effort at the ASEAN region itself under AUN certification programs, I think that's an effort that should be applauded, and that will also provides opportunities for younger universities to start looking at accreditations and all this credit transfer system. So looking at the long time, the ASEAN student mobility programs is like a way to bring in as many as ASEAN students to cross the countries. Every year, all the universities in ASEAN has their own mobility program, but these major projects actually provide more opportunities, more attractiveness in terms of what Malaysia can offer and what ASEAN can offer. Because previously, if you just come, it's one-to-one, university to university mobility exchange program.
Very true. So it was sort of siloed in a sense, even though it was exclusively in the higher education market.
Right, right. So this one, you have the opportunities to not only know one other 12 other universities, but you have the opportunity to join in AER, which is on the 24th, on the 25th February, in which there are 84, how many just now? the
Close to
exhibitors.
100, let's say.
So you can see other universities during the exhibition. So the opportunity is huge for the student as well, for them to get to know each other, as well as to get to know other universities. So we are hoping that this is not going to be their first time or the last time. They will come again, perhaps continuing their master studies here. And it will also attract more international students to Malaysia.
Exactly. And I also appreciated the fact that we're talking now also about the fact that it's about the faculty itself.
Yes.
And there is possibility for perhaps academic research and innovative transfer when it comes to programs and projects as well, all of which can lead into much more specialized sectors. We'll go more into detail into all of that in just a little bit. But thanks so much for the discussion so far, Dr. Arpa, as well as Shahril. Well, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Niaga Spotlight, speaking about tapping ASEAN's higher education market.
Malaysia sebenarnya berada di kedudukan kedua terburuk di dunia berkaitan keseimbangan hidup dan kerja.
LRT3 sudah akan mula beroperasi suku ketiga 2025. Kerja-kerja fizikal dan penstrukturan sudah mencecah 95%.
KPM sebenarnya sedang memperincikan cadangan untuk menyediakan allowance kos sara hidup tingkatan 6.
Libat urus antara umat Islam dan agama lain penting supaya dapat mengelakkan ataupun membawa kepada Islamofobia.
Welcome back to Niaga Spotlight, still with me, Tamina Kauschi. And today we are discussing tapping ASEAN's higher education market. Right, Shahril, moving back into the discussion, tell me more about how Malaysia intends to utilize our cultural, linguistic diversity in order to actually create an ecosystem which not only attracts educational environment as well as the international students, but these are part of the long-term goals for student recruitment. I'd appreciate any numbers you have as well to help us appreciate what the value actually is of every student who comes in.
Okay. So you see, Malaysia is a model that thrives in the face of multiculturalism. There's no other country, I think, in the world that actually has the kind of microcosm of the world that we exist in terms of our cultural and linguistic appeal.
Sure.
So if you look at it, if I can just expand the worldview a bit, China and India are the biggest population in the world right now. China is around 1.4 billion, India is 1.4, slightly ahead of China right now. In 2050, that number would be 1.7 billion for India, 1.3 billion for China. That's the projected population numbers. Still, they're going to dominate the world, basically, in terms of... But the only country that they can feel cultural proximity is Malaysia. Because we have
elements,
we have elements of their culture by virtue of us being the intersection of the west and east waterways of the world. So there's that kind of cultural proximity with the two largest population in the world right now. On top of that, Middle East countries, for example, Middle East and some part of North Africa that are Muslim-dominated and also Arabic-speaking countries. They can relate to Malaysia because we are very much Muslim-friendly.
So the level of comfort is unparalleled.
And then they will feel like Malaysia is a model of Muslim modernity in that sense. True to Central Asia as well. So these are some of our, by default of how we are right now, without doing anything, we are already appeal in that sense. Japan, for example, they have this Lukis policy that's very, we have our Lukis policy to Japan that has actually resonated with their population quite sentimentally. So they have that kind of, sentimental attachment to Malaysia in that sense. Indonesia, of course, we are within the whole ASEAN archipelago, I think, is already has that kind of cultural proximity. So by virtue of not doing anything, just by existing, we already have that kind of cultural appeal, and our linguistic. Of course, when people are exposed to our part of the world, they gain a lot more cultural nuances that gives every student a leg up in the employment potential. There's a number. I can't find, for the life of me, I can't remember which is the publication. I've been trying to look for it, but I'm quite positive and certain that there's a statistic that tells us 93% of employers are willing to give a lot more opportunities for people who have actually exposed themselves to cultural nuances, especially in Southeast Asia. So these are things that we are looking at. September 2024, Economic Times, I think, came out with an article that says specifically China is interested to work together with Southeast Asia countries, specifically countries that has this kind of microcosm of the world, in areas of higher education. So all of these just already gives us one foot in the door into the global market. But on top of that, right, we also have a global, a far-reaching global alumni. You know, we have around almost 200,000 network of alumni.
That's right. So it's not only about looking forward, but also looking to the past and trying to activate those networks.
Exactly. So they talk, and some of them, they know more about Malaysia than us. I mean, do you know that?
So they really made the best of their time here, going exploring and to places.
And we don't appreciate, I mean, I'm not saying that all of us don't. We put this under the radar. But do you know curry puff? That food?
Sure.
Curry puff is very nice. There's a curry puff is ranked by Taste Atlas as number 4 out of 100 tastiest pastries in the world.
Okay,
there's 100.
I didn't know that as well.
There's 100.
Good to know.
Curry puff number 4.
Okay,
can you imagine? We never cared about that so much. This much it's enough doing curry puff, number 4 in the world. But on top of that, we are the 10th most peaceful country in the world. We are the 5th country with, I mean, the 5th happiest country in the world. We are the top Muslim-friendly destination. We are 24th. We have Kuala Lumpur is the 24th best student city in the world. We are the 25th country for expat living by HSBC. All of these are things that have won global accolades that we need to really dig deep, understand and appreciate a lot more, because just by living and existing, we have real global appeal.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what I'm really hearing about is that we're looking at a much more diverse outlook when it comes to student mobility beyond just them spending the university years here. Thanks for that, Shahril. Dr. Arpa, if I could dig deeper now into how the student mobility program actually aligns with ASEAN's longer term vision. And this is, of course, to build a connected, skilled and competitive workforce through higher education. We are highly digitized. The future of education is already here, right? And sometimes there tends to be a little bit of a perspective that perhaps young people are not quite as interested to continue higher education. Let's combat that perspective.
Yes, student mobility program is actually one of the main agenda in terms of internationalization of higher education itself. So all universities actually has a student mobility program. Sometimes we call it student exchange program. Some universities call it study abroad program. So it's a similar thing. And it has been going on for many, many years, but I guess students or potential students may not be aware that when they go to perhaps University of Utara Malaysia, but they actually have a chance to go to France or they have a chance to go to Indonesia. So this opportunity...
And vice versa as well,
yes,
right?
Yes,
because that's why you, in a sense, run into people on campus who might be friends and scholars from France, from wherever else.
Yes, yeah. Internationalization itself is not the fact that you have to go overseas. You can also experience that locally. At the local universities itself. So I guess this fact has not been highlighted as much, and potential students or even parents are not aware of this. The fact that if you go to local universities, you're paying much lower fees, but the students will still have the opportunities to have global exposure. So I think this fact should be highlighted more. I guess awareness should be there. And universities itself has a lot of innovations going in higher education industries itself. The curriculum that universities offers. Knowledge is only actually one of the things that we are doing. There's a lot of other things that higher educations are doing. Skills transfers. We are not teaching the knowledge itself. We teach how do you get the knowledge that you want.
Right.
So there's a lot of other skills that that students can learn when they go to higher education institutions. And the fact that there'll be more activities outside the classroom. Of course, it can be an online activities, but mobility program is one of the things that we are doing to make sure that you are not only learning conventionally in class, there's a lot of other things that you are doing, the skills that you will gain. And in terms of curriculum itself, there's a lot of innovation. One thing perhaps I can highlight is professional certification programs. Accounting program especially, if you go to local universities, you will graduate not only with some credit transfers to the professional certification programs, some universities even provide full certification programs. So you graduate with a degree in accounting, and at the same time you have ACCA.
Right.
So,
very different from even something basically 5 years ago, right?
Right. And currently there's a lot of things like micro-credentials, the opportunities for non-traditional students to learn at their own pace, which they don't have to go register at university and stay for 4 years. Those are gone days. You can learn at your own ways. And students can also take a break during their studies. So things are getting really different now. And I believe that the things that we are doing at the universities will provide or will equip students with the skill for the future, because we are not looking at training the current talent. We are looking at providing the skill that the current talent should have, so that they can equip themselves or navigate what they should be expecting in the future.
Exactly. And what I'm hearing a lot of, Dr. Arpa, from what you've just shared with us, is the fact that, of course, we kind of tend to assume higher education market is just undergraduates, but there are people who are full adults who may be coming here for their masters, for their PhD. One area that I was actually thinking of, especially given University of Uttara's, expertise and location, etc. Climate change, environmental issues are of great interest to most young people, especially around ASEAN, given the fact that, we are increasingly being impacted by this. So there could also be opportunities for not only research, but also proper collaboration and maybe even full programs that qualify higher education students in this market.
Oh, you actually hit the point. The fact that in the universities itself, we are not training the students we are not developing only the students to develop themselves as future leaders. We are also telling them, you must contribute to the society. So they are equipped with the knowledge, but the knowledge is not for themselves. It's for them to develop the communities around them. So of course, environmental issues is one of the issues, not only for the interest of the students, but for us as well, for the communities, for the countries. So SDG has been embedded in curriculums. I'm sure all universities are doing that at the moment.
That's right.
Yeah, in fact, the ASEAN Student Mobility Program, we use SDG as the key items that they need to delve into. Under the ASEAN Student Mobility Program, we have 2 competitions that we did. One is ASEAN Student Young Talent Speaker Contest, in which they have to speak on SDG as well.
Right,
and
so
how
incorporating it early on.
Yes, and then when they go to the host universities, the 12 host universities, they will be put into groups. We make sure that there are diversities in the group, and then they have to work together, solving ASEAN issues. Using SDG as well. So they are working on putting their brains together on the same table, try to work. Those are the many skills that...
And I'm actually thinking of how many opportunities there are, because we, of course, cover quite often the green economy, the blue economy, etc. Sustainability, which is a part of every public listed company, not just in Malaysia, but around ASEAN, right?
Right,
So
and understanding each other's issues at the younger age. I believe this is huge impact that we're going to develop. And I hope that it will happen again and again, and we can do this a lot more.
Exactly, and this is just the start of it all. So Shahril, going back into perhaps digging a little bit deeper, but let's now cast the lens a little wider than ASEAN, since we're already here. Now, what opportunities is Malaysia seeing for emerging international markets? We were talking about Africa, the Middle East a little. Let's look at South Asia in particular. South Asia also, of course, for example, we've got neighbors like Vietnam, Singapore. Would we also be looking at exploring how to get those from more competitive higher education markets to come to Malaysia to study, and vice versa?
Okay, well, opportunities emerge through challenges that are actually existing in the global outlook right now. With US's increasingly closed-door policies, Australians cap in terms of how many students that they get.
That's right, and getting a lot harsher with the doling of student visas.
And we are seeing this, US is always the trendsetter, right? So the wind of change might blow
the domino
from
effect,
there.
as
Yes,
we
that's
say.
right.
Yeah.
So while Malaysia and to a larger extent Southeast Asia maintains their open door and warm welcoming policy, we can take advantage of that kind of threat. But if we look at it, if we kind of like put a spotlight on different kind of regions, and we talk specifically on strategy, Africa is a very promising market.
Okay.
Africa, as it is right now, from the population, 60% of people in Africa are aged 0 to and are 25 years old below. It's a very youthful market over there in Africa. In 2050, that number might climb up to 65%. There's a lot of this market of youth in Africa.
Incredible.
And their population is set to double. So we need to really specifically delve into the demographic makeup, the economic challenges, the internet penetration rate over there, how we can actually then,
be visible over
there. Be visible.
Yeah.
The awareness campaigns need to be actually done. We have data to help support our marketing activities in specific countries. Sometimes we treat this as a region, like Africa. Some of them we look at it on a country-specific kind of lens. On top of that, like Middle East and North Africa, we clump them together as MENA because of in virtue of Muslim dominance and then also their Arabic-speaking countries. So we bespoke our strategies to kind of like fit the
tailored
nuances.
approaches.
Yeah, that's right. So it has to be something that suits the audience and the demographic. But the appeal that we have, Doctor, in Malaysia is actually we also are predominantly English speaking. 70% of our courses are taught in English. So it makes that kind of language barrier a bit more easier for them to overcome and then also to see Malaysia as viable as a destination. If we look at South Asia is like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. India is of course big market. Bangladesh last time we saw a decrease in terms of student application, but it's due to the political uncertainty over there. And last year there was this whole thing about
a whole changeover of government and
change of government. So we're looking at an influx this year, compounding from last year's miss and then also this year's new application. So Bangladesh is going to be huge. The question is then, are we able to then to fit that kind of capacity because we are seeing this influx is going to be needed, and then also our process to enable proper vetting so that we can ensure that quality students are the only one accepted to Malaysia. So that is one thing that we are looking at. And Central Asia, similarly to MENA, they're also looking at Malaysia as a model Muslim country, a modern Muslim country. So it's driven by a largely youthful workforce, youthful administration. So there's a huge generation gap there, but the youthful demographics are very in tune to what's happening in Malaysia. And then it's evident in the application numbers. Last year alone, Central Asia had an increase of up to almost 80% of application numbers. Kazakhstan alone, up to almost 150% increase of student application, means the interest is there. We have a significant market voice.
I have to agree with that.
Yes, definitely. And these are people who are very much qualified to study. They are good in terms of their command of English, and then they are really seeking for career advancement. But on top of that, right, ASEAN is something that we need to look at. ASEAN, if we just look at Malaysia is like number 33, 34 in terms of size of economy in the world.
Correct.
If we blow up and zoom out to ASEAN, then
look at all 10 countries. Yes.
We become number 5 in terms of the size of economy.
And we're close to 1 billion people, just about 200 million shy.
680 million right now. You said just now in your opening statement, 213 million youth up to age of 35. That's what, 30-something% of the population. So we are a dynamic youth market here in ASEAN. The problem is this, that even though we look at a number encouraging from ASEAN countries, total percentage of mobility of students within ASEAN countries is only 9.4%. So there's huge opportunities that we need to fill up in terms of the gap within ASEAN first. We sort out the mobility in ASEAN through the means that I perhaps mentioned before, the harmonization of qualification and all those. And also, if we can expand our graduate visa program to accommodate a lot of ASEAN countries, I believe that then we can actually tap that huge market that ASEAN has ready for us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Shahril. So Dr. Arpa.
Can I
absolutely. Please
add on that? I guess awareness on what we are offering is not there yet. So AEF is definitely one of the things that will promote that. In fact, in Malaysia, we have international branch campus. The branding is there. You don't have to go to UK to go to Harriet Ward. You can study here, come to Malaysia and access a UK university's education program. So I think that's a huge opportunity there. But I think the awareness may not be there yet. There's a lot to be done on our side, actually. Yeah.
If I can double down on that again.
Absolutely. Yes.
You see, since its inception in 1967, if I'm getting my facts right, ASEAN has never done anything to this effect in terms of higher education. There's no AEF before this. This is the first time we're doing it, and hopefully this will become a staple program in ASEAN in the future.
ASEAN host countries.
Whoever becomes the chairman after Malaysia will have no choice but to actually make this happen again in their country, because we have actually started it. So that's the leadership position that we are doing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So some last thoughts, Dr. Arpa, perhaps on how we can ensure that this ASEAN student mobility and boosting international engagement actually continues, because as Shahril just mentioned, it doesn't even reach 10%. So plenty of opportunity.
Yes. Looking at the higher education's landscape in Malaysia itself, huge number of universities that receive highly ranked under QS World Ranking or THA World Ranking. So for me, I believe that the effort from the universities itself, among the universities, to increase the partnership between universities. In fact, now if we do student exchange programs, students that come to our universities are waived from the tuition fees. So it provides them opportunity. I mean, they don't have to get even a scholarship, but they don't have to pay the tuition fee for a one semester study program in Malaysia. Right. So this student mobility program is, I think, a core in terms of our business, in terms of partnership. But what I want to say is that the fact that when you come to Malaysia, you have access to other countries as well. With our ranking at the moment, we have a huge number of partnership to our European countries or US countries as well, to the top universities. So for example, at University of Utara Malaysia, you can come and take our program, do 2 years at our program, and third year you can go to UK universities, get a degree there as well. It's a transfer program. So you are paying University of Utara Malaysia tuition fee. It's a lot cheaper. So it can be an access to other universities as well. And we are working a lot on this landscape as well, even between ASEAN universities. So you can come to Malaysia, and then you can go to Indonesia, and you get 2 degrees.
Fantastic. Dr. Arpa, as well as Shahril, it's been such an interesting discussion. Plenty of opportunity ahead. And of course, encouraging everyone to attend AEF 2025.
Definitely.
Yes. Well, that's all we have time for today on Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kauji. We'll see you next Friday with more business analysis and insights. Here's to a productive week ahead.